Okay, so this video allows us to find the volume of a cone. Again, this is asked at National 5, but the beauty of this one is the formula is there on the sheet for you. So here is the formula for volume of a cone. It is 1/3 pi r squared h. So it's very similar to the formula for a cylinder, only there's a wee third in front of it. So the cylinder you don't know in the exam, but the cone you do. And I sometimes try and teach, well, the cylinder's very like the cone, but without the fraction. Because it's part of the kind of, the circle kind of family. It's got the bottom face is a circle. There's where the pi r squared's coming in. And they've worked out that the volume of it is 1/3 of basically the surrounding cylinder that it would have been. So I'm going to go straight in with example 1. Now this one I've asked to do just 2 to 3 significant figures at the end as well. So I'm going to start with the formula. V equals 1/3 pi r squared. 1/3 pi r squared h. So that is 1/3 of pi. The radius of the little hat here is 6 squared and the height is 12. And then you literally just go straight to calculate and type that in. Now there's different ways to type the third. You could use that fraction button if you're using that mode and put the 1 and the 3 on the top. Or you could just simply do 1 divided by 3 times all the other bits. Some people might want to stick a divide by 3 on the end, but if the third was there at the front, I go with that first. I personally do the 1 divided by 3 for quickness. So you type all that into your calculator and you come out with an answer of 452.389. Now I've not rounded it just now. It's very important. If a question asks you to round to a given amount of significant figures or decimal places, you must give some of the unrounded answer first, just in case you mess up on the rounding bit. So to 3 significant figures means I'm going to keep the first 3 digits. So I'm going to keep the 4, the 5, the 2. The next digit is a 3, which in rounding does absolutely nothing. So the answer is 452 cubic centimetres, and that was to 3 sig fig, and that's your answer to that one. So that's a nice straightforward one. Let's have a look at another one. So here is another cone. The difference with this one is I haven't given you the radius this time. So it's 1/3 pi r squared h. So we've got 1/3 times pi. The diameter is there to make our radius here 15. So times 15 squared times 50. And go to your calculator again, type all that in, and you get 11,780.97 centimetres cubed. And I always write at the side the number of decimal places. I didn't mention any rounding in that one, so that would do. Alright. Right, example 3 is coming up. So this one's different. I always like to incorporate the working backwards questions when I'm teaching shapes as well. So we're told the volume of this cone. So I'm going to start my formula. V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. Okay. Now I know my volume is 209, so I'm just going to put it over this side instead of on the left hand side. So my volume equals 209. So I know that 1/3 times pi times my unknown radius squared times the height of h gave me 209. So again, there's different ways to go here, okay? Depending on how your teacher will show you, I'll show you 2 different ways. So we need r squared on its own, so we need to deal with the third, the pi, and the 8. I talk about doing opposites all the time. So r squared equals, the opposite of a third is timesing by 3. So we do 209 times 3. The opposite of timesing by pi and timesing by 8 is dividing by pi times 8. So we're just shifting the pi times 8 down to the bottom to make it divide. Type that into your calculator and that gives you an answer of 24.947, and it keeps going on and on. We then square root that, because if that's what r squared is, we have to square root it. And that gives you 4.99, which we're going to round to basically be 5 centimetres. So when I put these numbers in, they were nice radiuses. So the radius is 5 centimetres, that's exact. Okay, now I did mention there was another way. So coming from this line here, the alternative is you can say that r squared equals 209, and you can just do all complete opposites. So we've got 1/3 becomes a times 3, a times pi becomes a divide by pi, and a times 8 becomes a divide by 8. And you can type it all in one go like that, and it will still give you the 24.947. Pupils find these questions a wee bit more difficult because it does involve rearranging and working backwards, but it's what makes it a level A type question instead of a C. So one more example. A common type of exam question is maybe putting two parts to it. So what we've got here is part A is find the volume of a cylinder, part B is find height of a cone. So it's incorporating two different things. So we saw cylinder already, hopefully. So the cylinder was just pi r squared h, no third to it. So the volume of this cylinder was pi times 20 for the radius, 50 for the height. And this gives us 15707.96. That gives us this answer. Now the question says to 2 sig fig. So to 2 sig fig me, I'm keeping the 1 and the 5. The 7 makes that go up to 6. So that will become 16,000 centimetres cubed for the cylinder. Now part B then says that liquid's going to come from this container. It's going to fill 800 cups in the shape of a cone. Find the height of this cup. Now, the option is, do I use the unrounded answer or do I use the rounded answer? Technically, it doesn't really matter from the marker's point of view, but if they've led you into rounding to the significant figures, it's to make your numbers nicer for the next bit. So we're going to use what they made us get for part A. We're going to use the 16,000. Now, 16,000 centimetres is going to fill 800 cups. That leaves us with an answer of 20. So the volume of this cup is 20 centimetres cubed. Okay, so we're going to start with the formula. So we've got a third pi r squared h. So we've got 1/3 times pi times 3 squared times h, and the volume equals 20. We need to get h on its own this time. So the opposite of a third is to times the 20 by 3. And the opposite of this times by pi times by 3 squared is to divide by pi times 3 squared. And that will give you an answer of 2.1 centimetres. Now you might think, oh my goodness, that's a bit tiny for a paper cup. It is. I had a bad choice of numbers when I chose these. But that is the correct answer. So the height of this teeny tiny is 2.1 centimetres. Okay. That is all my examples. So my next slide, there are 6 examples here for you to go try. The top row are all your straightforward. Find the volumes. Again, I've put a little asterisk here, so be careful with your units. I wouldn't use 60 millimetres. I would convert that to centimetres first and keep it all in centimetres. The next two, so technically question 4 and 5 are, here's the volume, go get me the radius or the height. And then the last one is a kind of past paper question, and that would be doing volume of the outer cone, so the whole cone here with a height of not 10 or 8, but the whole cone with a height of 18, and the small cone with a height of 8, which has kind of been cut off at the top there. So that's a big volume, wee volume takeaway. So try them and the answers will be on the next little bit of this video. Thank you very much.